Good morning, everybody. This is the IDA board meeting for Seneca County. Bruce can't make it today, so I'm gonna sort of guide you. We'll start with minutes from the last meeting. I have a motion to approve them as mailed, unless somebody sees something we should.
So moved.
Already moved this,
No second.
Marie second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is the IDA financial stuff from Bob.
Thank you. Start with a summary of the balance sheet. Again, this is as of December, year end. Our total checking and cash measured $3,035,000. Notes receivable, current portion, $36,000. Our total current assets were $3,071,000. Notes receivable, long-term, $112,000. Total fixed assets on a net basis, $256,000. And other assets, $112,000. Total assets, again, at year end was $3,554,000. Comparing that to November of '25 was $3,454,000, so there was an increase in assets in the month of December of $99,000. Comparing December '24 with December '25, December '24 measured $3,807,000. So there was actually a decrease in assets for the period of 12 months of $253,000. The majority of that number is found in the checking and savings arena, where it was down $160,000 from the previous year. Looking at the liabilities and equity, again, as of December, total accounts payable were $2,123, credit card $913, net pension liabilities $132,000, PIF deposits held $33,000, total current liabilities $168,000, due to other governments $17,481, total equity $3,364,000. The net change for the month of November in liabilities and equity was an increase of $99,330. Our December base of 2024 was $3,807,000, giving us a net change again for the year of $253,000 negative change. Looking at the summary of earnings and the P&L. Again, for December '25, our total ordinary income was $311,000. Our expenses were $537,000, giving us a net ordinary loss of $225,000. Again, this is on a 12-month basis. There were no other income items and no other expense items. The bottom line for December was a minus $225,000. Comparing that to November of '25, we improved our bottom line by $121,000, and it's made up of total ordinary income received in the month of December was $188,000. Our expenses were $67,000 for the month, giving us a net ordinary income for the period of December of the month of $121,000. When we look at December '24 to December '25, in December '24 we had net ordinary income of $249,000, net ordinary expenses of $500,000. Total and ordinary loss, again, for December '24 was $250,000. There were other expenses of $64,000, giving us a bottom line for December '24 of a minus $315,000. When we compare in December '25 to December '24, our bottom line was improved by $89,000 on a net basis. Again, that's a quick overview of the balance sheet and the P&L. Included in your packet was a 12-month quarter cycle comparison, along with a budget review on a year-to-date basis for December. Are there any questions relating to the financials for December 2025?
I just want to point out that
Yes.
we really made, as you look at the numbers, we really made our budget numbers on expenses very accurately. It's, the whole problem has been
The
income.
revenue service.
Yeah.
And that was possibly due to, again, an aggressive budget for 2025 that was
Mhm.
included a number that didn't happen, which is,
Yep.
Any other questions of Bob or Ben? Hearing none, need a motion to approve the budget for financials.
motion.
Mary,
Second?
Ben, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have Joe McGrath here from the, will explain to us about the Seneca Housing Strategy.
Sure. So, thank you for having.
You want to come up here, that way everybody can.
Sure. I think
Joe, do you have another?
I do. Thank you. Good morning. There was a chair leg there. All right. How's everyone doing this morning?
Keeping warm.
So, sure many of you are aware that the county planning department has been working on a housing strategy with the consulting group CZB LLC for the last roughly a year, rest 10, 12 months. We now have a final draft, and we brought it to the Board of Supervisors, and there's a lot in there, and there's a lot to be discussed broadly throughout the community. What I'm hoping to do today is basically what I've done with as many groups as I could get myself in front of for the past couple of months, and will probably continue doing for as long as I can foresee. So, wanted to go through a few of the core pieces of the strategy. I think there's a lot in here from an economic development standpoint that would be of much interest, especially to this group. So, if we start, everybody should have a handout. This presentation dates probably about 2 months old at this point. I did not get a chance to update it for this meeting, so we might digress a little bit, but bear with me. So, there was a precursor housing needs assessment that the planning department got a CDBG grant to conduct just after the pandemic, kind of when we were coming out of it. It was called Housing Between the Lakes, and this was a very detailed sub-market analysis of basically real estate trends throughout the county, and it broke out what was happening in each independent taxing jurisdiction. So basically every place that gets the same tax bills, if you're in the village of Ovid, you get a village tax bill, you get a South Seneca tax bill, and you get a town and county tax bill. If you live in Willard, for instance, you get a Romulus tax bill, no village, but a South Seneca tax bill. The rest of Romulus gets a Romulus school district, so on. So there's quite a number of these different little entities that was examined. And what they found essentially was that the housing problems are in trends and issues are different throughout the county. They're not the same in one place to the next. That being said, you can, we're not very big, so you can glean a lot of information from examining everything as a whole. One of the primary recommendations from that process was that the county should pursue a comprehensive housing strategy, and really connecting how housing development is a form of economic development, and the two of them to make progress on either side should be thought of in parallel with each other. So taking that the Board of Supervisors authorized money in, I think, the 24-25 planning budget to do this housing strategy. So, we put an RFP together, and got a bunch of good responses, and chose CZB LLC, who ended up doing the project. They are a very well-regarded community development and housing firm. They've done work in many regions of the country. They have done a lot of work in upstate New York because of some geographic connections to the area, but they do work in Texas and Colorado, California, and are currently working with Onondaga County and the city of Syracuse for housing around the Micron development over on that end. So they also did this for us. So we'll skip that. Next one. Go to this. So we had stakeholder meetings, and we had public outreach, we had surveys, and a lot of what we heard centered around issues of affordability for especially the renting population, from a lot of economic development types, folks from this group and Sarah. We heard that when a business is contemplating moving or expanding in Seneca County, they look at the housing availability for what might be a decent paying, middle class supporting lifestyle job, and we don't have the houses that their employees want to buy, and they end up going someplace else. We heard that there wasn't enough senior housing. We heard that seniors often feel that they can't move because any new senior housing is too expensive, and yeah, a lot of things like that. So taking all of that feedback and examining the trends that we have and the resources of who we are and what we are, this is the strategy that the consultants came up with. I think before we get too deep into it, it's important to kind of think about what we are. We're a local government with a bunch of different economic development and housing organizations that are working together in this community of about 32,000 people. We're not the state government, we're not the federal government. This is a strategy for what we could do to control in our own backyard. So, we heard a lot of feedback that, we need these I think part of my problem is I haven't been dreaming big enough in a lot of these circumstances. So I hear issues that might not be appropriate, ideas that might not be appropriate for us to pursue because we couldn't, where everybody could get down payment assistance, or we could fix up every single house, or do these types of big, broad initiatives. That's not something that we would be able to do. We can't deficit spend. We can't do things that the federal government does. We can only do things that a local government could possibly do. So, taking that, what the strategy offers is a blueprint for building a stronger and more durable housing market throughout the county. So a durable housing market, meaning that it's able to produce the outcomes that will help us move forward with our housing and economic development issues. A market that keeps the housing supply updated, well-maintained, and able to adapt to changing needs. So changing needs could be all sorts of things. We have an aging population. We're projected that the renting population of seniors is going to increase very, very largely over the next 10, 20 years. And that's going to change the dynamics of our market, and it's going to present future challenges. So part of the idea here is promoting that our housing stock be more maintained and be updated And that is by a lot of many decisions happening at the household level without direct government support, right? So we're needing to instill the confidence for people to update their homes, keep them well maintained and sellable, so when that home does get sold, somebody wants to buy it, will buy it, and it's what they're looking for. So this is all kind of wrapped up and talked about through a lens of the county being a soft market, and we'll get more into what that means. But that's a key concept that I think once you wrap your head around it, which it took me a while, I asked a lot of questions, really starts to shed some light on decisions that especially the land bank has made over the years, and ways that I think a lot of different organizations have pursued their work in the county, is in a response to these soft market conditions. Affordability challenges are due to low incomes and not necessarily high housing costs. And we'll get more into that piece as well, and that's also associated with the soft market. And there is a market gap, the difference between what housing costs and what people are willing to pay. And the last concept is highly focused use of local resources will be key to better housing and community outcomes. Feel free to stop me at any time, ask questions.
Joe, I have a question. With this, this soft market and low incomes, are we seeing seniors coming into the community to retire here that have outside income?
Not that I'm aware of at any large degree. I'm sure it does happen. People move around all the time, but I'm not aware of this being a retired.
Anecdotally, I'm hearing it in the south end because people just want to live near Hector mostly, but also on our side, Teganic Falls. You know, people are retiring into this area. But I just thought that, you know, if we could encourage that, especially because they're outside income.
I mean, I think it's not a bad thing, right? If people that are retired and have the income to buy a nice house, especially in the most competitive area of the county, nothing we should do to slow them down, right?
I guess it's because, you know, because of my age, I see that demographic more than I would see if I was younger, so. Okay.
And I would refer probably to the first page here, where it shows the hottest real estate markets in the county.
Yeah, I was looking at
in
that.
that exact area, not so much the Hector side, but the Trumansburg side is highly competitive. So if we flatten everything out and look at everything broadly, so the soft market, the page with the colorful spreadsheet shows a bunch of counties in New York State, and this is kind of a gut check that the CCB group uses to gauge a market's relative strength. So they take median homeowner occupied value, and then divide that by median household income to come up with a ratio. When you're up in the red, roughly 7 and above, up into 10, those are the true affordability crisis situations that you hear about on the news, your New York Cities, Austin, Texas, San Francisco, those types of places where the ratio has just completely inverted. The green areas are generally the places where there is enough household income to support the construction or maintenance of quality housing units. Anything 3 and below, you're getting into soft market territory where there is not enough income to produce those outcomes. And where Seneca County is down near the bottom, not at the bottom, but near the bottom of this chart. So throughout the years, we've had reports and studies and things for specific projects or other items that will say something like, housing is affordable generally in Seneca County, this is a good place to live. And you're right, they're right about that. The median house in Seneca County is cheaper than what you might find someplace else. The value associated with that isn't so much to do with that house being the same house someplace else. It's to do with the market around here not being as strong to hold the value. And because of that, people aren't updating, it might be in worse condition. We're definitely rural, so there's not as many community resources around it, so there's just not as strong demand for that house, and that's why it's cheaper. So the affordability that is often touted is really a byproduct of this market softness. And then we have trends. So thinking about soft markets, these trends kind of point to issues that are associated with that. We have generally declining population, albeit slow. We have an increase in senior populations, a decrease in family households, especially of working age. We have net out-migration and generally steady, if declining, population overall. I think the employment trend stuff could be of particular interest to this group. So we have Seneca County total employment and working age population, 1970 to 2024. So population aged 18 to 64, that's your working age population. We are now, in 2024, we have the fewest number of working age population people living in the county since 1970. At that same time, we have decent amount of jobs. You can see how the trend, it kind of peaked just before the pandemic, crashed and came down, but it's starting to recover a little bit, just about 16,000. But we're hovering right around 16,000, which was the same as roughly the mid-1980s. So we have the fewest amount of working age people with the same number of jobs that we had in the mid-80s. The next bar chart shows the changes in source of employment over that same time. So we can see that there's been declines in manufacturing, state and local government, federal, civilian, and military especially, and big growth in accommodation and food services and retail trades and all other industries. So we have lost a lot of the jobs that in prior eras supported the type of wages that would support a stronger housing market. We've replaced them largely with lower paying jobs, which the effect on the housing market is that there's not as much local demand, because demand isn't the same as need. Demand is if you're ready and you can pay for a house, then there's housing demand, because that household can participate in the market and demand a house, right? We're seeing less and less of that being homegrown because of the employment trends and economic trends and all sorts of issues. So roughly at the bottom page here, at the bottom of the page, there's also a breakdown of the resident working age population or employed population. So there's about 16,000 workers. About $35,000 is the cutoff for, if you make more than $35,000, you can typically afford something. And you'll typically find something, especially if you're working full time. So even if you're a low income worker, but you're making about that much money, you'll generally be able to find an apartment and you can live there and continue on. Below that, you really struggle with housing insecurity and instability. So about half of the working age, about half of the employees in Seneca County make above that. The other half, 6,000 of them, of the 8, are only employed seasonally, temporarily, or intermittently. So meaning they don't work full-time and they make under 35,000, and that is a significant piece of our employee base. So what this suggests is there's definitely room here to work on social mobility through economic development to get better jobs and all sorts of things for kind of this population, but focusing on providing housing that relies on subsidy and all of the traditional things when you think about affordable housing for that part of the market. For local government to do that, considering our resources, doesn't make a ton of sense. It might not be the best use of our time. There's other money. You can go get CDBG money, you get housing tax credits, you can go get all of the slew of subsidies and resources available to do this work, and we're doing that. That is happening. You're doing it today. You have this resolution for the home leasing project in Seneca Falls. So, let's continue on. I'll go faster. Let's skip this page. And then, lastly, this got a little pixelated, but all this is boiling out to the Seneca County having the fewest amount of households with incomes of $100,000 and above in the region. So it sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about it, it's 2 people that both make $50,000 in whatever their job is in one household. Those are the households that generally, what you think about as the traditional middle-class family that can support them, pay their taxes, and they go to work, their kids go to school, they go to restaurants, they support really the local tax base and the economy. We have the fewest amount of them in the region.
Joe, are the Amish communities included in these statistics?
They would be, yes.
Because that, I mean, they traditionally are very low income, reported income. So they're gonna pull those numbers down dramatically, aren't they?
So, yes, but I think, let me say, I support the Amish. I think it's great they're here. I think.
Yeah, it's not a criticism, it's just, it reflects in the statistics.
Yes, it does, and I think, because we're so small and we're getting so many, that it showing up in the statistics is having an effect on the overall market dynamics. So when you think about how many working age Amish folks might be represented in this employed seasonally, temporarily, or intermittently number, I can't say for certain, but what I can say is that is a population that's not participating in the traditional employment market either. So it's essentially even smaller in a way. That thinking about the folks that are working here that are low-income employees not working all the time, and some of them are Amish, the rest of them are not. And I think the overall thrust that the low incomes are driving a part of this soft market dynamic would exist whether there was a significant Amish population or not.
Yeah, I mean, just looking around the county, you can see that. But I just was wondering how much impact it had, but tough to measure.
And I think this goes back to what you said at the beginning about,
They're working all over in other counties. I've checked them around. Ontario County, Yates County, and they're construction companies. They got stuff going on you don't know about. You know, but it's not in here.
Oh yeah, they're a busy bunch, and famously hard to quantify exactly what they're doing. But yeah, they do a lot of work. They do a lot of housing maintenance work, housing new builds, things like that. I think, I get this question a lot, like, can we work with the Amish to, build housing for cheaper? My answer is always, we probably can, but what I can't do is go out and get a grant and then pay an Amish company to do so, because they might not have the right insurance or figuring out the coordination and all that.
Prevailing wage.
Yeah, so I think there is a path, I think they're part of the solution, using state resources in the traditional way. I haven't figured out a good way to do that.
Sarah?
And I think that this slide kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning about just availability from personal experience. I don't necessarily think it's not choosing, but not able, there's nothing for sale. And for myself, I mean, in the last year, we bought a new house and we looked for a full year. And obviously you want proximity to where you're working.
Mhm.
Waterloo, Seneca Falls, like, just, there's nothing.
No inventory.
No.
Okay.
Won't get inventory till these prices come down so contractors can build houses. There's the
We'll come back
whole
to that.
problem
Yeah.
right there. This map showing the people coming into here to work and going out. There's people that still live in Seneca County and wanna live in Seneca County and drive to work. They'll drive to Rochester and Syracuse, it's a proven fact.
Yes, they will. So, to skip ahead, I don't know exactly where, but it's okay. So, we can anecdotally find an example of anything. What the broad statistics are showing us is that, yes, people will live here, they'll commute to Rochester, they'll commute to Syracuse, they'll commute to Tompkins County. What we're seeing is more people with the jobs that we have here that support a middle-class lifestyle, people commute in, and then they drive back someplace else and they live someplace else, broadly. So what we're hoping to do, what we need to do is figure out how to keep them here, capture that housing investment, that household level investment from households that can afford to make it. We need more of that occurring here. So when we're a county of our size, with the resources that we have, the question is, how do we do that in a more consistent manner? So yes, anecdotally, you will get people trying to live here, but they can't find a house. It took you a year to find a house. We need to loosen it up a little bit. I think the strategy on the first or second page of the printed document says something like, there's a general feeling of stuckness. We can't make a move here, we can't make a move there. Seems like anything that we might do doesn't move the ball forward and loosening up the market in any way. And all these trends, all these issues took decades to build and put together. And it's not gonna be untangled and turned around in a day. Like this is a 10-year time horizon, probably at a minimum, to start addressing this in a different way. So yes, people will live here. We need to figure out a way to get them to do so more often, is kind of the trick. So I think the self-reinforcing issues, if I was more in my game, I would have made another slide to add here, to add another wheel going the other way, and showing a more virtuous cycle, but for the sake of the presentation that we have. So all these things coming together, all of these things play out over time. We've got the aging and declining population without migration. Supply begins to exceed demand. We had a higher population with more demand at one point. Housing got built to accommodate that. As we're slowly declining, we're getting vacancy, we're getting some bad outcomes with deferred maintenance and code issues and all the things that you would associate with that. That sends a market signal that maybe I don't need to invest in my housing, maybe I don't need to maintain my housing like I should and make people spend their money in other places. So investment in the housing stock decreases, you get deferred maintenance. That kind of boils to the area being unattractive to potential new businesses or residents, and we have competitiveness issues. Then, with all of that, with those conditions in that way, and the slipping demand for the residential market, your tax base, if it's not declining, it's not growing fast enough to pay for all the things that a local government needs to pay for, and we start to get into budget issues. And then we go out and we get a grant, which is sweet. We go out and we get money to do housing interventions in all sorts of ways. We go get a grant for the Huntington building, we go get a grant for the land bank projects we have. INHS goes and gets a grant or a low-income housing tax credit for Pine View, and the bottom most in need section of our population is addressed, which is great. We should be doing that, but it doesn't address directly anything else in this loop. It's just another cog. So stagnating property values and home values continue, and then you get more out migration and declining population. So if I had another slide, it would have this wheel going in reverse, and I would have put the opposite on all of these pieces. But this is essentially what we're trying to slow down. And all of these things, they're playing out in a million little decisions at the household level and at all sorts of levels over decades. Like this didn't happen, this cycle didn't happen last year. It's a long-term thing. So we're trying to account for and address soft levels of demand by leading the market in a stronger direction. Next page. So 60% of households probably can afford a house, but they have a challenge in the market and competitiveness overall. So the cost to generate and maintain housing units is a little bit higher than essentially the willingness for households to pay it. Not that they can't, it's just that they generally are not. So thinking about my own household, I could fix the siding on the side of my house and I could put a new bathroom in, I could do these things. But will I get the money back at the end of the day? I don't know. And I think if you think about your friends and family and the people that live around here, there's a lot of that happening. And that's part of our stuckness, right? If that starts to open up a little bit, there's more confidence that people will be able to recoup their investments on those individual decisions. Then when that house goes for sale, you might want to buy it. And when the houses come up for sale more often, they're more competitive, and people might take a second look that they might not have previously. And then the affordability challenges, the cost of money to generate and maintain housing units. These households just don't have the money. They don't have the money to pay for their housing. That's the essential issue that you think of most of the time when you think of strategy. So a change in direction requires addressing both challenges, the market and the affordability. So CZB LLC, they went through and they examined 6 different real-life development scenarios based on 6 different opportunities in the county through the lens of how would you pay for it? Would you use subsidies and government market for affordability type project, or would you go straight private market and see if you could make your money back on the investment that was put in? And essentially no scenario was feasible. So they looked at like a 30-house subdivision off of Route 318 of what you might think of in Victor or Farmington, one of those type subdivisions. They looked at new construction and adaptive reuse of like mixed use commercial residential buildings in downtowns. They looked at small apartment buildings, 2, 3, 4 unit buildings. They looked at new construction, modular homes, all sorts of different things at different sites, and found that there was varying levels of gap between what they could go get from a grant or go get from a or a bank or anything like that. That none of them were feasible with the current market as it exists in Seneca County, which is again part of our stuckness. If we're trying to get ourselves unstuck, we want development to happen, finding a way to address the market issues and challenges that projects are having would be helpful on that front.
For the first one you mentioned, like about the new home development, similar to like a Farmington,
Mm-hmm.
so there, folks who were buying, you know, they would buy before it's built. So I'm wondering what the hang up is with that. So they wouldn't need to find the money to build if people are buying the house prior to it being constructed.
So they are paying the money ahead of time to live in Farmington. There's not a development group out there that is confident that they can find enough people willing to pay the amount of money it costs to build a house to make it worthwhile for them to take a second look at
Okay.
that opportunity in this county.
Yeah, wasn't the estimate something like, so for the cost of a house to be built in a subdivision like this, it would be about $100,000 more to build it than someone would be willing to pay for it, right?
Essentially, so there's stronger demand in places like Farmington. It's a
Do
little
we,
bit
do
closer.
we know why that is?
That's what I'm only asking because I'd have been the first one to sign up for that. So I'm just wondering where the information's coming from to know that the people aren't there, I guess. Don't ask me.
I think we need more review. I think this is the point, right? So if you think about your friends and family, how many of them are trying to actively live in a very rural location and pay the amount of money that they could spend in maybe someplace like Farmington? It's probably not a big group. Like, so the amenities, the culture, all of those things flow into housing decisions. It's not just a basic analysis of cost, of affordability. It's what school are they gonna go to? Where am I gonna go grocery shopping? What am I near? What can I do? What opportunities will I generally have if I buy this house in this location? So, yes, it is hypothetically possible that somebody could go get the money together, build one of these things, and try to sell them, and they might buy it. Somebody might buy it. But no developer is actively choosing to take that risk yet. What we're trying to get to is a point where this place is a competitive area where that developer does make that decision to make an investment here of that type, because they have a growing confidence that they'll make their money back and maybe a little profit at the end of the day. They know all day long that they can make their money back in other areas, and there's only so many developers. So why would a developer take a big gamble out here when they know they could take a lesser gamble on someplace else? So we're needing to get them here
Yeah.
more consistently.
I just think that when you're promoting it ahead of time, the risk is a lot lower because you're not actually building the houses if you don't get the interest. Just like in Farmington and Farmbrook right now, like they've been trying to promote that for a year and a half, right? Like, so they haven't actually built any. Geneva, like they did a smaller one on, I think it's like Rosewood several years back. You know, it could be 8, right? Like it could be a property and we're looking to build 8 and let's see if the interest is there. I just hate to see a door closed on something that could be, that we don't really know, because that could be an opportunity to boost some of the.
One of the problems is too, the process to go through takes so long. I mean, you've gotta get zoning, you've gotta have code enforcement. You're looking at a 2 to 3 year process, and you get frustrated before that period's up, and you go someplace else where they are moving forward. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know which comes first here, the chicken or the egg. Do you build a house, somebody will live by it, or do you sell the house and hopefully build a house, and then you find out that the neighbors don't want you building there, and the whole thing gets shot down, or there's not electricity there
Yeah,
to
there
do
you
the
go.
house. There's so many reasons for this not to go forward, but I don't know. You have to do something, and someplace you have to start a bit.
Well, on the environmental review side, that's gonna be an interesting thing in this year's state budget that we've not really talked about, but one of the governor's proposals is to amend the seeker process, the state environmental quality review process, particularly in regards to housing, to try to make it easier and a little bit faster timeline-wise for those projects to get approved.
So, and then if you have a piece of property that you're going to pre-sell, right? There's still a significant amount of investment. Like, it's not cheap to get to
Yeah.
the point where you're putting this opportunity on the market for sale. You've done design work, you've done your zoning, you've done permit. You're already thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars into, if not more, into the project at that point.
And you've got to put the roads in, you've got to put the electric, the water, the sewer.
Right.
They all have to be done before the first house can be built.
Yep.
So,
what we're trying to do is build a culture, essentially, that we can do these things, that we are workably, actively trying to attract this type of development, recognizing we can't do everything. Like I said, we're not the state government, we're not the federal government. We don't have any money. We'll get to, could we have money? Maybe. But the conversation now is basically how do we try to attract this type of outcome, this type of development that we want, that we're not getting. And there's, other places are getting it, right? So it is possible. What do we do here over time to untangle all these things to get that type of investment?
Joe, is there a way too that you could make one uniform code enforcement for the whole county? Every town's got something different. If that could be lumped into one thing, you're gonna go to Seneca County, you're gonna have to do this, that, there's steps. So that you wouldn't have to go through the county end and then go through the town end, because they're all different.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think we have control of that. So zoning and that kind of thing, it's definitely valuable to reform, to adjust, to figure out what makes sense and what doesn't. We do a ton of stuff that doesn't make sense. And we do some stuff, I think that does make sense. I think we do a good job in certain aspects. One of the primary things that the consultants say, and I agree with it, but not to, I think they value it a little bit more than I do, is that they say that because of these soft market conditions, the zoning and permitting process, like, we're rusty. We don't do it enough. So when a project does come, we all look at each other and go, how do we get this permitted? And working in the planning department, I'm very familiar with looking at somebody and being like, I don't know, let's figure this out. So I think there's a lot of things we could do to adjust that. But what will really make it easier, and when you think about a place that does a good permitting job, is that they do it a lot. They have the institutional knowledge and memory of, oh yeah, with this subdivision project, we did one of these, did one like this last year. We did two of these 2 years before. Like, they remember, they know how to do things. People stay, there's an amount of holdover with staff, so there isn't a creakiness, there isn't building a plane while you're flying aspect to the zoning processes in more competitive markets. So I think repetition, if there's more development, we'll get better at administering our zoning codes and those types of things. But the point you make about it'd be easier if there was all one, I think there's probably something to that. I don't want to make a broad policy comment where it's town decision, so every town and every village has their own zoning code or lack thereof. And they all evolve differently, and they all require their own code officer, and they all require all of these different things. So to combine them is a very interesting political project that the planning department, well, we can give you pointers, give you tips, we can give you ideas, but I don't think that's something that there is a major appetite that anybody has told us to be working on yet. So, but yeah, individual zoning codes,
They're individual now.
yeah, individual zoning codes, I don't think,
Codes is a New York State book, that considers everything in codes.
yep,
Zoning is each town. Junius doesn't have zoning, Opit doesn't have zoning. You only get the growth that we got in Junius, they know a new place just come in. They're gonna build sheds and small houses. But, and your question on the Amish, how about the Mennonites? They've all got their own businesses and they're all thriving.
yeah.
Are they counted into this stuff?
Mhm.
They're the ones that are overpaying everything. There's two houses out there, they paid over 500,000 for.
You take everything from the town of Fayette, from where we are, they're on County House Road, everything from there south to Ovid. If there's a house comes on the market, you don't even know about it, and the Mennonites have bought it. They're
That's
buying
right.
every house, whether it's in the hamlet of Fayette or outside in the country, they buy every house.
So
And then they fix them up and make them really nice, and, you
And
know,
they
it's.
resell them. You got
Well,
guys that do
If
it
they
after
resell them, they're
business.
reselling to other Mennonite. They're not selling to non-Mennonite people. Once it's in the Mennonite community, it stays in the Mennonite community. It doesn't
But on
come
the
out.
other hand, in Seneca County, Ralph, and you know this yourself, or any agriculture county, people don't want some of this growth.
Yeah.
So we're gonna,
I told Joe that night that they had this meeting at the county office building there, that,
we can't grow without a big industry, and as soon as somebody come with a big industry and wants to, people are gonna try and stop it for sure. They want it the way it is right now.
I think we have to decide too, on a lower level, do we wanna be a bedroom community? Or do we wanna be an industrial community that has businesses here for people to work? Or do we just want people to commute in and out of the county? I
Right.
think that's a big decision, it's all part of this.
I think you're right. And that was a conversation that the stakeholder group had, was, do we want to be a bedroom community where people are coming into work, or do we want people that live and work here? And the resounding answer was, we want them to live and work here. So that was the tact that this strategy took, was how do we retain people to invest their housing dollars here? Retain workers that might be living someplace else, to, again, choose to invest their housing dollars here. One of the school district superintendents made a comment that they can't remember the last time that they hired somebody for a teaching position that lived in the county or moved to the county, and they retained for a significant amount of time. So that's what we're trying to change up here. There's that dynamic of somebody that gets a good middle-class lifestyle supporting job that might not be from here, but maybe is from here, but they choose to live here while they're working here because they find it a competitive place and a place worth investing in. So I don't think the idea that we're gonna have subdivisions popping up overnight is exactly what we're talking about. It's more like we're trying to build a market where just things are generally more possible. We're not gonna flip a switch and all of a sudden subdivisions are everywhere because we adopted the strategy. It's gonna take time, and the idea is getting ourselves pointed in the right direction to allow and enable growth. And growth is good. I think it's broadly agreed. There's a lot of sentiment that already just described of people like it the way it is, and there's all of that. And the way it is, like that grew at one point, right? It established itself. And what we're seeing now is there's kind of a flattening, there's not as much investment happening, all of that. So getting back to a point where we are growing a little bit, I don't think it's gonna change like the makeup and the character of the county, but it will change the direction and the ability to actually get further investment. But again, not a light switch, more like a slow drip that could hopefully get a little stronger over time.
In the manufactured home park in Tyre that you're citing here, how many units are there? Just if you happen to know.
I don't remember. So it was a piece of, they found a piece of property that was for sale, that was entire, that they did a cost analysis on for that type of development.
Oh, so that's not like an active,
No, these
No.
were all hypothetical.
oh,
Based on actual places. So real properties that were for sale or available with
potential.
Yeah.
hypothetical development.
And this is an exercise that they have done many other places it's one of the things that they do. And one of the reasons that we picked them because they were very strong on demonstrating the financial abilities of a hypothetical project.
Because that's, the other definition of manufactured home is affordable housing,
Yep.
so.
So, one of the things too, it's tough to, we don't have data on what it costs to build a subdivision in Seneca County because no one's built a subdivision in quite some time. So like the hypothetical is important here because we don't have a lot of data about this stuff. Like these are projects that haven't been done. It's the type of project that a lot of folks say that they would like to see. So the hypothetical is really the only tool that we would have to gauge what the cost and what the demand is for these things. So we can pick it whether it's going to be that expensive or less expensive, but at the end of the day, it is the only real touchstone that we have for what something like this might cost at any individual level. So the strategy puts a vision out for Seneca County in 2035. The county is making progress towards being a more competitive, vibrant, and fiscally sound community. So housing is appreciating more consistently throughout the county. If you remember the map that was at the very beginning from the first study that we did, you would see some places were very red, some places were blue, and then there was kind of whites in the middle. If housing is appreciating more consistently, tax assessments are keeping up more consistently, and the value and ability to equitably collect property taxes to pay for all those things we need to pay for should start to keep pace a little bit better. So this strategy is not necessarily saying that taxes need to increase or do those things, that type of thing. It's saying that we need to have more money essentially exist over a broader expanse in the county. So not the most expensive properties are really floating everything, that we have a more distributed ability for more families that are working age and working in good paying jobs are able to support the property tax base throughout the county, which is a dynamic that is in decline currently. So we're hoping to be able to make some progress on that. With that, stronger levels of investment and lower levels of maintenance and deferral. Rates of chronic vacancy in condemned properties is declining. Major corridors and centers show signs of pride with renewed willingness to commit time, money, and effort into sense of place. And the taxable value of core villages and hamlets is rising. And the county is competitive in retaining households that have choices in the region while improving the range of affordable options for workers with lower wages and seniors. So the idea is to put together kind of a framework for interventions that strengthen the market. So this next slide, we've kind of got two tracks that we are currently doing and that we could be doing. So right now we're using existing federal and state resources administered by nonprofits and other Seneca County partners to do affordable housing projects and work. There's financial support for this, so we go out and we get a grant, or we go out and we get a low-income housing tax credit, and we can get a project to happen. So the affordability gap in that low-income project is covered by that grant, by that subsidy, and a project happens. Most of the projects that we see, especially closer in the downtown villages, are some sort of income qualified project. We're not seeing a lot of action for market rate anything in our downtown villages. If you're gonna get something done, it's very expensive for all the reasons that are out there. And you want it to be a market rate project where it's not an income qualified project, there just isn't the demand and there's not the households available that are choosing to live here to pay for that market rate to make that project possible. The only way we're really seeing anything get done is if there is an affordable housing aspect subsidy to it. That's status quo, that's what we are right now. The idea here is if we had a new funding source, we could do those market rate projects in the downtown. They could become feasible, and we could get more quality projects that would be market rate, that would be attractive to people that are working here, to invest here in their housing dollars, essentially in renting first, and then as we move forward, they like it here and they want to stay and they buy a house. That's kind of the game. That's the goal. That's something, it's small bore, but again, we're only 30,000 people. We can't do things that, say, the federal or state government might be able to do. But to address some of the trends, the idea is to invest in the downtowns, make them competitive, more vibrant, broadly a better place to invest. So thinking about from an economic development perspective and even a tourism perspective, if the downtowns are getting nicer, there's more people with money that live down there that have a little bit of discretionary income. You're gonna support small businesses, storefronts. They're gonna be a place that somebody might wanna visit. And if you're building that environment, people are gonna wanna invest in it and they're gonna wanna stay. So when they go to buy a house, or they're working here at the school district, or the county, or Bonadette, or wherever they work, they continue to choose to live here instead of take their money and investing it in Canandaigua or someplace closer to Syracuse or Ithaca or something like that. So we're addressing one side, but not the other. The consultants identified some places to potentially get a new source of revenue to do the work. Here it comes. So I'm not going to get into too deep in this, but the idea is that $1 million is raised annually for the next 10 years to make targeted specific investments to strengthen the market, along with everything else we need to be doing, the zoning stuff. There's some other things in here, code enforcement, that we can talk about that are complementary to doing all of these things. But the thrust of the strategy is to attract the type of development with the limited resources that we, as of now, don't even have. What can we do to build the strength and the confidence in the market that puts us in a direction where we can build the demand and the potential for other investments that happen that we have nothing to do with. We're trying to jumpstart the market, essentially. So potential for sales tax, real estate transfer tax, mortgage recording tax, occupancy tax, or the general fund, or any other suggestion. I am agnostic. I think you can make good and bad arguments about any single one of these. From my perspective, I think there's value in doing this, and it's a decision now at the political level with the board of supervisors and whoever else to potentially agree and identify where and how this change in direction would be paid for. So I don't know. I can only do so much and have so many opinions on that, but eventually it's going to be a conversation at the board level. But yeah, there is lots to talk about on that front. So let's go to the next page. So there's some principles and some standards that would be associated with standing up a program like this. And those principles and standards would be associated with the direction that we're trying to go and trying to lead the market. So each type of intervention, the consultants have identified 3 that would be the right place to start to begin to instill the type of confidence and send the market signals out that this is a place generally worth investing in by addressing the market gap on these projects. So previously I said the fastest way that we are able to address our downtowns is by using government money, and that it's essentially income qualified. This would provide a pot of money that not every project that would happen in a downtown or hamlet is funded and with a government subsidy that requires an income restriction. So assist adaptive reuse and infill projects. So these are your downtown core buildings, your block buildings, commercial on the bottom, storefronts with residences on top. So fixing up the ones we have and potentially building new ones. That would be the first type of activity to be supported. And then support small rental rehabs. We have a lot of duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes throughout the villages and hamlets in the county. They're all in rough shape. And that is one of our biggest resources in terms of available apartment units. The idea here is to make them more competitive for people to choose to live in them that make enough money to pay market rate rent in Seneca County. Right now, the renting population that is choosing to live in these properties is not paying the amount of money that they would need to be kept up. Think about almost any multifamily small structure in any of our villages and hamlets, it's probably not doing too hot. So getting some investment and attention there would have some community development and competitiveness benefits on the other side.
So Joe, I got a question about Fayette has been, and you're probably familiar with, they've been rebuilding houses in the hamlet of Fayette for about 2 years now, really fixed a lot of them up. Has that been government grants that's helped them, or are they just private? Damon Nicholson's doing most of it. Is he doing that on his own, or is he getting something?
Yeah, he's doing it on his own.
Yeah.
Is he? Okay. I didn't know what the deal was. I just know Fayette's really improved itself.
So I'm not familiar with exactly every little project everywhere.
Yep.
My experience with Fayette is kind of centered. There's like 4 or 5 houses on the right hand of the side of the road that have been in some trouble for a while.
Yep.
Are any of those?
Yeah. Damon
So
lives
moving them?
behind the post office, and I believe he's bought the first 2 or 3. There's one there, I think it's falling down. It used to be a Grange building or something. There's a person living in it.
Yeah,
With the roof's caving in.
Yep.
But I think there's 2 beyond that he now owns, or maybe 3, and he's fixed them up, made them into apartments. His son lived in one of them.
What's his
Mennonites-
fellow's
It's
name?
all private.
Huh?
What's his name?
Damon Nicholson.
What's his name?
Right.
Damon Nicholson, he's a contractor, does a lot of,
Is he selling them and renting them?
I don't think he's selling them, I think he's renting them,
Is he-
but I'm not
I guess my
positive.
question is, he's got them done and are they
I
rented?
think so, but then
Okay.
you go on the
Didn't we get
east,
into something with Fayette here?
The Groggery project, yeah,
Yeah.
that's just for the one building,
Yeah.
so that's not what Ralph's talking
No,
about,
no,
but yeah.
right.
No,
But the-
Fayette's been making effort. They, the last few years, have applied for a New York Forward grant. I don't
Okay.
know if, I mean, obviously they've not been awarded or anything, but it's possible that he could be
I just think we
one of the
should,
ones trying to do something to kind of move things forward
we
there.
should use that for a model, because to me, that's working. There's a Mennonite that owns one on the south side, on the east side, he fixed that up for one of his sons that works at, construction company too, I know. But there's a couple on the east side, north of town, that they've been fixed up, and I don't think Damon's saying to do it, somebody else is fixing them up. And they've done a really good job, they make them look nice. I don't know, but I think we should use that for a model.
Individuals.
Yeah,
Right, so we're trying to spur more of this.
Yeah.
So this is anecdotal, right? Like, you know about this thing, it's happening, you're seeing it, it's looking good. This is not being repeated everywhere
mhm,
for whatever reason. Like, it's figuring out how to scale this up, right, is kind of your question or thought here.
sure.
Like, so we got a guy, he's a contractor, knows what he's doing, he can take a building, he can make it nicer, he rents it out. Good, that's good. We need more of that, right? What we have now, instead of that, is broadly, especially in your village of Waterloos and your village of Seneca Falls, is somebody that could be that guy, but they're not that guy. They buy a downtown building, 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, sometimes a single family house. They throw a coat of paint on it and replace a pipe, and then they rent it out for as much money as they can get. Sometimes they rent to own it, sometimes it's rough, right? They'll filter through, people will evict people won't be able to pay, and it's all in the low income. This type of project also addresses that. Your Huntington building gets an opportunity for people to get out of that slumlord situation into something that's a little bit more stable. But that house, the community value, the infrastructure of that house that's in that situation broadly declines over time because it's not getting invested in, and people that live there aren't able to invest their own money into it, and the landlord's ownership is not also making that investment. They eventually sell it to somebody else who starts the process over, or it gets foreclosed upon. What we're needing to do is create an environment where it's competitive and a good idea for a engaged and responsible developer to make money and to be confident they can make good money on buying that house and getting a good project done. Somebody like Nicholson, somebody that could be anybody. So they're not making that decision now broadly in Seneca Falls or Waterloo. The idea here is figuring out how to get them to make that good decision more often, right? So we have a model, we know it's working here. There might be some secret sauce in Fayette being small, and they knew how to engage the owners and get ownership and control of some of these properties. A little bit further down the street in Fayette, there's 2 or 3 houses near the, I think it's a historical society, used to be a church. Those ones well, I don't think they've cracked the code on those ones yet. And what we're hoping to get to is an environment where more people feel confident in trying to crack the code, and it's not the local government saying, we're gonna give you money to do this, we're gonna give you money to do that, we're gonna give you money to do that. We're only focusing on these 3 types of interventions. And then creating a market and environment that promotes better decisions, better outcomes across the board. All right, gotta go. So we have descriptions of what each intervention might do, might be able to fund. You'll see one of the items is new construction for downtown infill. So We have a couple sites in Ovid where that would be an appropriate use of funds. We have a couple sites in Waterloo, there's a couple sites in Seneca Falls, all that type of thing. Small rental rehabs, I've got 2 pictures of real houses that are for sale right now in Seneca County that are in kind of the situation we were just talking about. That it really would be great if somebody could get in there and do a nice project that didn't just keep the revolving door going. And then accelerating movement on distressed properties. Every village and town has their white elephant issue. That'd be great to get control of somehow to deal with. This would provide a source of funds to do that. And then at the end, we have complementary actions and policies. And that's all the other stuff that we would be doing in parallel with the main thrust of the activities funded by the strategy. So the last page, back to the budget conversation. I've got 2 headlines snipped off the internet from last fall. And this is kind of in a nutshell what we're trying to talk about in the terms of how this strategy promotes fiscally sound communities and economic development and all that type of stuff. If you look at the map that's from the previous study, that's kind of a precursor to all of this. Like the colors are very uneven, right? There's very weak spots of the market, very strong spots of the market. Most of the people in the county live in the blue areas that have the lowest value broadly. What we're hoping to do is build the strength and the confidence over time that our hamlets and villages start to recover some of that household income that enables good outcomes, that enables competitive environments, that brings value back to these places more equitably so it can be taxed in a way that doesn't have these huge disparities between low income and high income. Places that are able to have that more equitable growth are able to budget a little bit more easily. So just next door in Ontario County, right? They got to a place, and they're not even either. They have hot and cold, but they're, just for example's sake, they were able to lower their tax rate, but increase their tax levy, and that is because they were experiencing enough growth that they were able to do that. It was widespread enough that values rose in some incremental amount throughout the county that they could lower taxes, but still there was enough growth and investment occurring where they were able to increase the levy and pay for all the stuff local governments need to pay for. The idea here is to not one for one emulate, but just have more equitable growth that spreads the burden a little bit more evenly from household to household and town to town, that allows for budgeting to occur more predictably and soundly from year to year.
So, Joe, hasn't I mean, we can see the borders, this is all the lakefront properties. Haven't they all about doubled in the last 5 years? The value of the properties?
Yeah, and then we're getting into the real weeds of tax assessments and all that kind of stuff. But broadly, if there's reassessments happening and things are working the way you would generally expect them to work, as time goes on and we are seeing values rise, not in just the lake shores, but along the interior of the county as well, you would see that levy increase and hopefully enable lower tax rate to occur.
It's a property revaluation issue. So in Seneca County, we don't have any towns right now at 100% equalization rate. Seneca Falls is the closest. They did a reval a year or two ago, hired a firm to come in and do that for them. They're now at probably like 98% or so equalization, which is very respectable. The majority of these towns with lakefront are now below 50% equalization rates. We have some that are at 48%, meaning that the properties have not been revalued and that the assessment that is on the books that they get taxed on, because you get taxed on your assessment, not what your house sells for, is 48% of what that house would sell for, roughly. But what that really means in regards to all of this is that you have properties on the lakefront that maybe have actually increased in value at a faster rate than properties that are, inland in the hamlets and in the downtowns. And so the assessments basically are not equitable right now. What you have when you have a situation like that is people that financially have more ability to pay, they live in better homes, but because those homes were built ages ago, they haven't been revalued in many years, they are not actually paying what they should be proportionate to the rest of the community.
Right, so the equalization rate isn't adjusted from time to time.
And the equalization rate won't account for those changes in value. It's because it's doing it at a town level. So you see some place like Fayette has a lot of red on the borders and not in the middle. The equalization rate is going to be the same no matter where you live in Fayette. But the lakefront properties are more likely to have their values go up at a faster rate than the people that are living, right in the actual middle of the county.
Right, so it can be uneven in a lot of ways. And this is not directly addressed in the strategy. The strategy assumes that things are being re-evaluated every couple of years as they should be. It doesn't get into anything beyond that, but just theoretically, if you have a lakeshore town that has high value properties on the lake shores that are increasing exponentially every few years, but then in the middle, we're not seeing anything close to the same rise in value. And while that's occurring, your equalization rate stays the same. At the end of the day, if that's not adjusted, the local government still needs to bring in the money it needs to do local government stuff. And it ends up putting more of a burden on the people that their properties did not rise in value as fast as the lakeshore properties.
Well, it seems like that's the formula for, go where the money is, that would provide the money you were talking about to improve the development of the housing stock that isn't so good. Is by just doing your equalization, get the tax rates up, that will give you more money to work with.
I'm agnostic.
That's taking it out of that would be taking it out of the general fund though, because you're talking about property tax levy, which then means that is competing for every other thing that the county has to pay for with the general fund. So, their staff and services and personnel as opposed to one of the other 4 options that was on the slide, which those are like designated special revenue sources that are completely separate and would not involve the county saying, okay, yeah, we're going to do $1 million this year out of our general fund, but that's going to come at the expense of $1 million to the sheriff's department or something, where those conversations would be happening then.
And the problem, Ben, is that as soon as those supervisor or town boards decide they're gonna do a reassessment, they're done. Their political career's over with, because they're gonna raise taxes and they're not gonna get reelected. And most of those towns in the middle of this county, those people have been there for years. Those supervisors, they're fixtures, and the town boards are pretty well fixtures. And they're not gonna raise taxes. They're not gonna do the reassessments, because it's gonna cost them their
You're not gonna raise
job.
taxes with a revale. We raised taxes until we had a revale a few years ago. Wait a minute, let me speak. We gotta do a new one. most of the people in our town, their taxes went down. The
Yeah.
ones that were under assessed, they went up. So you take all this, it'll lower your tax rate. It'll lower the tax rate of the schools. I know Lodi is one that will not allow a reval, and they're losing completely.
Yeah.
That's-
Because you're down
That's
to
what I was talking
48%.
about.
We're at 62, and the trouble with this, the towns have no say in and when this reval gets lowered. It's the state that keeps doing it. So if you keep up with it, you're actually saving the taxpayers money.
Yep.
But they got it in their head, they need to be educated. Just like you said, they think it's gonna raise taxes, it doesn't.
No,
It
most-
helps lower,
Seneca
it
Falls
lowered
did.
mine $68, which isn't a lot, okay?
No.
But otherwise, it just keeps going up because you have no base to set your tax rate with. It raises the value of your town and it lowers your tax rate.
And that's why, and this is maybe getting a little political, but we're going there today, I guess.
I am
We
not
are
ready.
here. Well, the thing is, as IDA, we're here and we're trying to negotiate and bring projects in. So this issue is very near and dear to what we actually do. And ideally, you would want towns to be doing revals every few years so that you don't run into a slump like that where you have the town of Lodi and the town of Ovid and whoever else with 48% equalization rates where the supervisors and the town boards get nervous and don't want to support the assessor doing a reval because they're worried about the potential backlash from the community, which almost entirely stems from a lack of education and understanding on the matter. But if it becomes something that you do just as a matter of habit and a matter of course every few years, it's less jarring for everybody, you have more consistent property values, you have more equitable property values, and then you're not worrying about all the political shenanigans.
You're closer to the appraised values.
Yes.
But that didn't happen in Seneca Falls. We had the reassessment, all of our assessments went up, and they said, nope, it's not gonna raise taxes. Well, now this year, it is going up.
You gotta
We're going up
face
a
one
dollar a
thing, Seneca
thousand.
Falls has always been different.
Well, but it
But it shouldn't work that way, Ron.
it shouldn't, but it
No.
did.
Oh,
And they're sitting on a pot of money that they don't
I
want to
know,
spend
I see some in the
anyhow, so it's
paper, they're all
ridiculous.
upset about it.
So,
So the
But
time.
normally it doesn't. We put a little away each year for the assessment, for the reval. It is expensive. And the last one had to be done by, the assessors couldn't do it.
yeah.
So
And I don't know if they still can.
to put a bow on it, so housing's complicated, right? It's everything comes together in housing policy and decisions. Economic development, taxes, it's all here. The thrust of the strategy is focusing on what Seneca County can do to lead the market in a direction where all of these different types of projects could be possible that we're not directly investing in, but we're supporting by leading the market in a way that gets us to more action. The revals and the source of funds, that's all secondary. Like, I think the first thing to understand is the soft market and what that is producing, and then figuring out the consequences of addressing it, how you pay for that, revals, all that kind of stuff is the next step. And on the Amish and Mennonite side, if you look on the map, when I say if you start to really dig down on the soft market concept, you start to think about things you're seeing. The Amish and Mennonite are buying areas that are in the blue, that are in the softest spot, because land is cheap, right? They're able to get a good deal here because they come up here from Pennsylvania where land is more expensive, and they can find a spot that works for them, and we get more and more and more. Whether it's good or bad, that's the dynamic that's playing out. I think once you get in there with the soft market concept, you can think about all sorts of different ways and decisions and things that have played out in the context of that. Same with Airbnbs popping up in Interlake and Lodi and Ovid and the villages. So a house flipper can't make their money back reinvesting in a house and selling it on the regular market, generally in one of those towns. Airbnb can, because they charge so much money, and people will show up and rent that to finance the rest of the work that needed to go into it. Whether that's good and bad, I mean, I think you can make a case either way. I think tourism is important, obviously, and that's a dynamic that's playing out in the context of the soft market. So you can start to think about a lot of the trends that we're seeing, and turning some of these things around gets us to a point where we're hoping for better outcomes. I have to go.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. If you get some projects, send them our way, because we can maybe write some idea or some pilots for them that save some money.
Well, that's exactly the thing, right? For the soft market, like you guys, I know like you're having trouble drumming up work, right? You're looking for stuff to do in some way, shape, or form. I might be oversimplifying here, but like people aren't choosing to invest here, and they're not coming to the IDA because they're not choosing this place in the first place, right?
Mhm.
So if housing is associated here, because if we can get more people wanting to invest here to live here, we're gonna get more business development, and there's gonna be more stuff with the IDA to work with. And I think that's kind of back to the virtuous cycle issue. If we can get things pointed in the right direction where we're growing, then the IDA will be able to cultivate projects more consistently.
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Did everybody get a copy?
Yes.
I think so.
You don't want it?
I have one.
Oh, okay.
That's what I read before I go to bed.
Oh, so you're right to sleep.
Yeah.
I've read it 3 times since you did the presentation at the Board of Supervisors.
All right. Well, thank you.
Excellent job. 5 gold stars.
Thank you.
And you do have this online. When Sarah sent us the invitation to the supervisors meeting, it was, you could, whatever you call that, to go see and look at it. So this, we have it online. Right?
Yeah, there is a website that works, and you can click on it and it downloads. Which,
Yeah.
that's a big deal for us.
And the link was also in the briefing memo, so there's a hyperlink there. If you click on the PDF version, it'll take you to the website where all the housing strategy stuff is.
Okay.
Yep.
Next up is the discussion approval of the IDA resolution 2026-8, recapture agreement for Huntington Apartments.
Okay, so most of you are probably not familiar with the specifics of this project at this point, because this was a project that the board approved in 2022. It has been constructed. We did a pilot agreement for it. At the time, they were proposing, and they still are proposing, 2 full-time jobs to support 53 units of housing there, okay? What has happened is that the developer is now looking to convert their construction financing to permanent financing. Because this project was an affordable housing project, it received state support and incentives through the New York State Office of Homes and Community Renewal. And what is now happening is the permanent lender and the Office of Homes and Community Renewal is looking at all of the other agreements and things that the developer has in place, including our pilot agreement. And they've seen the recapture agreement, and they've gotten nervous about it because a pilot is necessary for the long-term financial sustainability of the project in order to have permanent financing and in order for it to continue to exist and be maintained and be there. And the reason they're nervous about the recapture agreement is because as a standard practice, we always have whatever the job commitment is from the company's application as a potential trigger of recapture in our agreements. Meaning that if they didn't have their 2 full-time equivalent employees, that could be grounds for us to reach out to them and say, you're not meeting your obligations, we're gonna pull your pilot agreement. Now, it's not an automatic trigger. We've never had it be an automatic trigger. It simply opens up a discussion. But that still, the uncertainty of that still makes them nervous. And so we've had some discussions with them and said, look, we can look at untying the jobs from project recapture. So we would still have a recapture agreement. We're still required to have one through the state. What this resolution would do would be, if for some reason they didn't have 2 full-time equivalent jobs in a given year, that would not be grounds for us to reconsider taking their pilot away, is all. And that recommendation is coming primarily from the fact that this project wasn't supported by the IDA because it was 2 jobs. It was supported by the IDA because it's 53 new units of housing. It was, an adaptive reuse project. There are other significant factors that led to its approval. So that's the resolution before you. Rob, feel free to jump in to add any additional clarification if there's anything I missed there.
Nope, I think that does it.
So what would the 2 full-time jobs been, like maintenance and things like that?
I think like maintenance and management of the building.
Leasing.
Are the apartments all full? Do you know what their percentage of? It doesn't, when I go.
I do not know. I think they're pretty full when I was there for the ribbon cutting, but that was quite a few months ago.
I drive by there quite a bit, and the parking lot has very few vehicles in it, and I just wondered where they stood with,
It's probably because the people can't afford them.
well, I wondered that. Maybe there's other reasons they can't have the 2 people, it's because they just don't have enough tenants
Well,
there.
I talked a little bit with Sarah about this before, and in a structure of that size, with that many units, they're gonna have a maintenance guy and they're gonna have a bookkeeper. That fulfills the requirements, and for them to come to us and say, oh, that's too onerous, it seems to me that we are kind of just rolling over on that. And it just seems to me they're trying to have everything their way. And I understand that, that's what lawyers are always looking for, is all the strategies and everything to go their way. But for us to have integrity for the work that we do, is we got to have some way, at least on paper, of holding them to account.
When was the 2 jobs supposed to be created by? Is it the duration of the construction, duration of the whole pilot?
The way our projects work is companies have to report to us every single year
Right.
for the duration of the pilot agreement. This one was a 15-year agreement, or maybe 20, I can't quite remember.
15, I believe.
They have to report to us every single year of the project, and they have to give us the job numbers quarterly. So if
Right.
there's fluctuations, if somebody, quits and they don't have an employee for a quarter, and, we average that out to give an annual number that gets posted to the Paris system every year. None of that changes with this proposed change. They still have to report to us. They still have to, give us that information.
To directly answer the question, it's the same as in the application, which is they have to meet it within, I think, 1 year after project completion,
Okay.
which is defined in the agreement as essentially, getting a C of O. or
Okay, so
whatever
that's
thing
what
is.
that's what the rub is, that construction is complete, so now we've started the timer for that you have to hire 2 people by
Well,
next
I think the
March.
rub is that the financing is flipping over to state subsidized financing.
Because really what we're doing is we're verifying with the people who hold their financing. They're not particularly,
The developer that applied,
Coming to us,
that
right.
owns the building, is not the one that's specifically come to us.
Right.
It's the lawyer that's working on their behalf, trying to get their financing agreement closed, that is saying the state and the lender are sort of,
so the bank
Thrown off by
is coming to
this.
us and saying, if they don't get the 2 jobs like they're supposed to, how likely are you to yoink their pilot agreement? That's what the agreement is. So it's not them asking, we'd
no,
like to
it's
forfeit
the,
this
it's the bank and
requirement.
the state being like, wait, if they don't meet these 2 jobs,
Give them the money.
you take this agreement away, all of a sudden this becomes really risky and we're screwed,
Right.
is what it comes
The
down
background
to.
is, most of these there's a separate pilot provision in the private housing finance law that's outside of IDAs, and that's usually where they get their pilots from, as opposed to IDAs.
That's what you were saying with the municipality. So it's
Yeah.
it's an IDA thing. They're saying we're really scared of you because you're holding this and you have recapture and you're an IDA and we're not used to dealing with you, so
Mhm.
you're weird and new and exciting.
Yes.
True story, bro. Gotcha. Okay. So how would you write it, council,
We
to
would just
say,
say that the benefit recapture agreement essentially says that if certain conditions aren't satisfied, then the IDA has the right to examine the project and do a number of things, including terminate the pilot and/or recapture the benefits
Yeah.
that came back. So we would just rewrite the benefit recapture agreement to eliminate the job requirement as one of those conditions. It would just,
So then what would the conditions that would be left?
well, they basically, in this particular case, it's essentially just a generic, all that's left is a generic compliance with, the other terms and conditions of the documents, right? Like they have to make the pilot payments and otherwise be in compliance. And if they weren't, then we could terminate the lease and end the pilot.
Gotcha.
How much money are we talking about for the pilot? What is their savings in taxes per year?
A lot.
A lot.
Because it's in Seneca Falls, we just talked
Okay.
about revals. There, for some reason, this project was assessed in a way that most low-income housing projects are not assessed. When we estimated the pilot for this, we figured their total valuation at project completion would be, I think it was like a few $1,000,000, because it's typically done based on the income generation of a project when you're talking about low-income housing. The assessment on that building is like $17 million.
It's a historic, because
So-
of historic waterfront, big lot.
And-
It's water in the back. If you drive to the back, there's
It
water
happens
there.
to be almost equivalent to what their project cost was
Okay.
presented to us. I don't know. I'm not sure what criteria the firm was looking at when they did the reval for Seneca Falls, but their assessment was much higher than we would have expected, which means their taxes would be
So even-
astronomical if the pilot went away.
So
Gotcha.
even though there was a pilot on it at a certain tax rate, when they did the reassessment, Seneca Falls, that value of that building went up? And they
Everything, even stuff that's under a pilot agreement, is supposed to be given a value by the assessor.
Okay. And so that could change what the pilot,
Not for
Right.
this one, because we did do this one based
It's a
on
set
a
amount,
flat rate
yeah.
per number of housing units, because of the nature of this project, and because of the fact that their margins are so slim on a low-income housing project that you really don't have room for that uncertainty of what the assessed value is. Another reason why they really, need a pilot agreement.
Is there any chance we can lose anything? Any money or anything?
We're not gonna lose any money on this.
Okay. But it sounds like to me, maybe we should table this and get more information before we vote on it. I'll make that a motion.
is there a second?
So the question that we're asking is, would we be willing to forfeit the 2 jobs in order to ensure that this project goes forward? That's what we're,
I don't even know that
We're
we're
not-
forfeiting.
Yeah, we're not really
just-
forfeiting the jobs,
'cause it
we're
sounds
just
like they're gonna
saying
need
that
those
if they
jobs.
don't meet the 2 jobs, we're not gonna use that as a reason to start talking
Okay.
about possible recapture.
okay, so it's not for sure off the table.
Right, they're gonna need those people. I mean, that.
And they still have to
building that size
report it
isn't gonna be
to
able to
us.
operate without it.
Right.
But it
So-
means that if for some reason when you only have 1 job instead of 2, that's not gonna be grounds for us to reach out to them and say, oh, your project could be in jeopardy of.
I just feel like if you table it, it's gonna look like we're not fully in support of what we just had an hour-long meeting discussion on housing. I just feel like it wouldn't sound like, this is a great idea, except when we have to vote on it, and then it's like, no, thank you.
Well, and it feeds into the complexities that Seneca County's kind of known for, how hard it is to get things done. If we push things down the road and, I mean, this sounds like it's literally just the lender wanting to give better terms
To be
by
sure they're not
reducing some
losing.
risk.
Yeah, be sure
associated
they're
with
not
the pilot.
losing.
I agree.
So I think the jobs are still gonna be there, I think everything's still gonna be there. It's just, we're lowering the risk to the new lender, so the developer is gonna have better terms of this new financing.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I see it.
If you got 52 units, 53 units,
Mhm.
you got 2 people to maintain it.
Right.
You take one away, the thing's gonna be going downhill. It'd be like a slumlord had taken over.
Definitely, I
So
don't,
then
Well,
what
and
do
the
you got-
state's
what do you
gonna
got in the
have-
end?
The state's gonna have standards about that kind of thing. So even if for some reason our particular agreement didn't have grounds, if all of a sudden the conditions start slipping at a certain point, the state would start clawing back their own incentives. which would then make the project not feasible.
Depends
So,
if they take a look at it now and then.
so from that perspective, I'm not too personally worried about the number of jobs slipping or the condition of the housing slipping. I think, you know, the way that, at least as a staff, we generally see this
We don't know,
as,
maybe you only have 10 units.
you know, we're doing this, we're reducing the risk to the lender to ensure the financial sustainability of a project that brings housing and adaptive reuse to the community.
Right.
So we've earned his motion on the table to table it. There's no second yet. Does anybody want to second it? It's okay, so the motion's gonna die for lack of a second. All right, so let's, any more
Correct.
discussion on the resolution?
So then the motion would be to approve the amendment? That's what the motion would
Would
be?
be to approve the
The
resolution.
resolution.
If
Approve the
somebody wants to
resolution.
move that forward, yes.
Okay, then I will make the motion.
I'll second.
So it's been made and seconded. Kelly, you gotta do a roll call?
Mr. Brownell,
Nay.
Ms. Capelli,
Yes.
Mr. Guthrie,
Nay.
Mr. Cure,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, absent, Mr. Tom Murray, absent, Mr. Bruce Murray, absent, Mr. Lott,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
so that's only 4. We need 5.
So the motion doesn't pass.
Correct.
So my reason for not approving it is, again, it just seems to me that they are trying to stiff arm us when the requirements, I mean, they're certainly gonna have 2 employees. Why are they so?
It's more about the lender, I believe.
Yeah, it's
not
the
about
bank.
developer.
I understand that.
You know, so I don't think it's,
Lender can make more money that way.
So it's the state is subsidizing, essentially guaranteeing the financing,
Mhm.
right? So their concern is that they don't really have control necessarily about the employment there. So if something were to happen and the employment levels were to drop below 2, in theory, the pilot could then go away, which means that the viability of the project goes away, right? And then they're left having to step in and fill that gap and supply the guarantee, or else the property would be foreclosed on, right? So that's what they're trying to avoid. It's not,
So this is
Just to
coming
be
from
clear,
the
it's not the-
state as the lender or
it's
the
not
guarantor?
it's not the developer coming and saying, we want to be free of this restriction. It's the state saying to the developer, we can't close on the financing until you get rid of this restriction.
Oh, so I
That's
hadn't
how
heard
it's
that
been
before. So they are actually using this as a go, no-go?
That's how it's been represented to, I
Okay.
mean, I don't want to misrepresent what
No,
was said in the
that's how I
phone conversation, but yes.
Okay, I didn't realize, I thought it was still in a bit of negotiation rather than presented as a
No, and
failure
again,
of the
this-
agreement.
The state is used to a certain statutory rubric where they do these guarantees where there's a pilot that's not subject to any potential recapture, okay? Basically, the town approves it, and once that happens, the pilot's in effect for 10 or 15 years, depending upon whatever it is. So this animal that they're looking at now is different than what they're used to, and they're saying, we can't do this until you take this animal and change it into what we're used to seeing.
Okay. So that motion failed. If I change my vote and I make a second motion to approve, so I can change my vote to approve this?
Should we do a new roll call?
How could it fail with only 2 nay votes?
Because we don't have
We don't-
enough members, we
we don't
need
have
a
4 yes.
majority of the total board members.
Does his vote count as a no?
No, he's
He
absent.
doesn't have a
Even though
vote.
he wasn't here? The county does. If you're not here, it's a no.
Ooh.
Well, you need a
I-
We
majority.
need,
I didn't
that's why
find
we need, so
yeses.
we have a total board of 9, sorry. Even though 4 is the majority of the people present, we need
For-
5
Majority of the board.
votes, majority of the
5
board.
But didn't we have 5?
No,
Jeff.
because Ben
Oh,
voted no.
sorry, my hearing's not the best.
Well, so I'm willing to change my vote based on, because I didn't quite understand what we were talking about. So do I make a new motion to accept the resolution? So I make a new motion that we accept the resolution.
Are we okay with
That's
this?
a question for the lawyer. I
Have a
guess.
new second.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. So you need someone else to
Just have a
second.
vote
the-
on a
He says,
motion.
okay, so we need a second. Everyone will second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded. We do a roll call again?
Mr. Brownell,
Nay.
Ms. Capelli,
Yes.
Mr. Guthrie,
Yes.
Mr. Cure,
Yes.
Mr. Lot,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray, Mr. Tom Murray, and Mr. Shipley absent, motion carried.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is banning item.
We can skip
Shipley's not
Jeff.
here, so he's left, so Mr. Brownell?
He isn't done yet. All right, tonight we're gonna be voting on some grants. One of it's $300,000, but it's over 5 years, and this is mental health and all the kids and stuff. Court security, advertise for bids for road materials and tree service. And we're gonna be discussing this housing strategy also. That's kind of tonight's agenda. There's other stuff, but it's,
Can I ask you, do you have a feel for which way the housing strategy is gonna go?
I do not.
Okay.
I know of all of the surveys and everything that's been taken, and this we could probably build 225 housing projects. Biggest waste of money I've seen since I started real estate in 2018, and it was a housing shortage then. Until the contractors can afford to build them, you're not gonna build them.
I think, this is just me talking, but I think they need to do sort of like what we do, a pilot. So if somebody improves their house, you don't pay the tax rate increase the first 5 years, say. You gradually bring it in. That way you've got some pride and ownership. There's a lot of these houses. My son just fixed up a house on Yellow Tavern Road. Extended the garage, put a new bedroom, bathroom, I don't know what else they did in it. His taxes on that house went up $140,000. I mean, not the taxes amount to about $600 a year more. So as soon as you improve something here, they just stick it to you with the taxes. There needs to be something done that way. I think we could see people improve their house a little bit better, at least on the outside. I think there's a lot of houses fixed up on the inside, that they leave the outsides just go to pot.
Did that tax come in after he got it completed or?
It's not completed, Ernie, so it's
Then
gonna
they
go up
can't-
even
They
more.
can't tax the full thing.
They did, and we went to them and asked them why they
They
did
go
it.
to
and they said,
grievance because
well, if
we
you,
got one of the best tax, and they cannot tax the full value when that house is still under construction.
okay.
You
well,
can't tax your house for doing maintenance, like putting a new roof on. But a lot of assessors do that.
Well,
Okay.
since COVID, I think everybody's doing it just
Mhm.
every year in general,
Yeah.
like across the board.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of grievance hearings, so I have never yet come out on top.
But you've got another problem too, they said with the people that can't afford to do some upkeeps in their house,
Yep.
but you can afford the phones and all the other stuff that, so you're not gonna change that, that's their way of life.
I agree.
Your best bet with grievance, by the way, is to negotiate with the assessor before grievance. And if you, seriously,
Bring Ernie with you.
because like,
There you go.
get your lawyer to support you and all that, have your ducks all in a row and go to them and make a solid case, and most of them will,
Yeah,
settle. If you don't have enough data or enough information to support what you're trying to say, they'll make you come to grievance and you'll walk away.
frustrated?
Yeah.
That's why there's more people than the assessor, he doesn't have the full say on that.
Yeah.
The trouble is, people are doing, we got a good assessor, he's got the rules in his head. And he can't, because I've discussed stuff with him because of that. And there's things that they can't do that they do. And you got one of them. He might be able to go a third of it, but he cannot go put the full value of
And
that is
see,
not
I'm
done.
not sure where that did, maybe he only got part, but it went up $600.
Oh, well, okay. Well,
Taxes.
no,
I don't
that you'll
know.
understand, right?
Yeah, so, whatever.
Okay,
Okay, back to,
motion to
All
adjourn.
no, not yet.
David's.
Dave? you
Yes.
do an update?
Yep, I'm going to fly through this really quickly, we've been here a long time. Best part of the job, we get to do business retention expansion visits to various businesses, farmers, wineries, manufacturing in the county. It's been a rough winter, as you guys know, the weather and everything has been limiting. I did 7 this month with various industries throughout our clusters that we're focusing on. Really, I'll just skip to it. These anecdotal reports are not super exciting. But I have the feeling that at the end of the year, I think the culmination, you know what I mean, of all this data together, I'm gonna have some good, exciting stuff. But really, I mean, the conclusion is just January outreach shows that Seneca County businesses remain resilient. They're navigating continued market adjustments. These are all big words for things we already know. Workforce constraints, right? Cost pressures. Engagements will remain focused on supporting operational stability while identifying opportunities for long-term sustainable growth. You know, I mean, I heard from farmers like, hey, there was a drought last year, right? Feed is an issue, stuff like that, you know, just real basic stuff. You know, no big plans for expansion from anybody that I've talked to this month. Yes,
Did you talk to Pine Tree Farms in Interlaken?
Pine Tree Farms in Interlake, I don't think so, not this month.
Well,
I
not
have.
this month, but when I talked to the manager back
We
in,
did reach out after you
October.
were there, offered to come do a visit, offered to talk about their ideas and their plans, and they didn't end up making an appointment.
okay,
yet.
because he was screaming, he said he really wanted to double
I'll
everything
get
that was
after him
there.
again. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
get after him again, sure. Pine Tree Farms,
Yeah.
we've been there a few times, actually.
He had a pilot at one time, didn't he?
They did have a pilot,
That was
and then the
previous
business
owners.
sold from
Oh.
Pine Tree to Lebanon Seaboard Corporation, which
Right.
is a Pennsylvania
Yes.
company.
Family
And
owned.
then that sale would have triggered the project coming back to the IDA board for approval of the transfer of ownership. There wasn't that much time left on the agreements, so the new buyers of the company decided just not to bother trying to transfer the pilot and everything that was remaining over. So we
They
haven't had one since
They
the,
just paid it off, right?
well, there's nothing to, they paid off the loan agreement that they had with us, but on the pilot, there's nothing to pay. We just terminated the pilot agreement when the sale happened.
You know, I mean, it was, the industries have been shifting a little bit. The wine industry was mostly what we focused on again this month because it's winter time. You know, visits are down, money's kind of flat. I guess the wealthier are buying more wine. You know, the experience, everybody likes the experience, but that's all I have right now. I don't have anything. I mean, you can read through this. I mean, this is based on real data, that we've collected in the field. But I think that, again, like Joe mentioned anecdotal data earlier, but it's kind of anecdotal, but I think over time it's going to build up to something big picture. At least we can see trends. I think a lot of this we already know, but it's good to get out there as well, right? The BRNEs. And I thought, oh, another thing, I visited with the new county manager. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you there. Melissa Taylor? Yeah, and she's wonderful. I kind of got her blessing to approach county departments and kind of do a lot of what we were just talking about with getting everybody on the same page, trying to get a singular vision for Seneca County as far as economic development, streamlining operations for permitting, zoning, all this stuff. You know, how do we make our reputation a little better? You know, not saying it's bad, I'm just saying, you know, maybe we can stay positive and spread that.
Well, just education, because
Yes.
I know the new supervisor, the lady from Seneca Falls, doesn't know anything about IDA. She said her interview in a paper said she wanted to come to one of our meetings and see what we do here.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand what a pilot is. She thought
Right.
we do a pilot, they don't pay any taxes.
Right.
They don't
Exactly.
understand, but they do need to understand.
Exactly,
somehow.
and I gave Melissa the what is the IDA presentation that I gave you all. I'm happy to do it again if you ever want it. I mean, it's 10 slides, quick. I am hoping to get that presentation in front of various organizations in the county, including the Board of Supervisors, as well as you know, our local governments, our local leaders, and you know, zoning, planning, and all those folks. I actually did meet with Jill Henry as well, planning, just impromptu. She was in the building, and we had a great conversation as well. So pointing out a lot of the same issues that you heard today with the housing and business in Seneca County, but I think that, you know, I'm going to definitely focus a lot of efforts on getting that presentation out and educating the people here and doing the best we can, you know, with what we got. I'm just one guy. I'm not a firm. I don't have, you know, fancy studies and all that, but we're gonna do what we can.
Good deal. Thank you.
You talked about this before, getting, groups to work together, but it never gets done.
Somebody needs to take a lead though, and the IDA might be that person or group that could take the lead.
We might be, yeah, we might be positioned, because we're not political, really, you know, we're not
Yeah.
government per se, but we kind of are, and we have the best interest of the county in mind, so maybe we could be that intermediary.
And we represented a lot of different businesses throughout the county.
Oh, yeah.
So we're as diverse as anybody is.
Well, it's open to them, so we just let them know.
I know they were coming for a while, Jeff Trout and Beth were coming to the meetings and they quit. So they must have had something they wanted to see done and we either didn't do it or we did do it and they're happy, so. Okay, any other business?
No?
So moved.
All right. Second to adjourn, Ernie made the move, there we go. Ben, meeting's adjourned, 2 minutes after 11.